he wants to shit on me, but in a soft way, and he...
Chris Aceto manda Renato Cariani enfiar o currículo no c... Diz que Renato Cariani é falso, que quando estavam juntos ele dizia que o Chris era o melhor do mundo, que os seus métodos eram incríveis, que o Chris era excelente, e agora diz que o Chris não é um bom treinador, que seus métodos são terríveis, basicamente chamando o Cariani de falso, o Renato Falciani, é verdade? E pra quem não sabe o que tá acontecendo, o Renato Cariani, durante um podcast comentando sobre o Mr. Olympia e todos os acontecimentos que a gente viu com o Ramon, dos seus problemas ali com a finalização e tal, basicamente afirmou com todas as letras, com todas as palavras, que sim, o Ramon tem que trocar de coach. O Júlio Balestrin também, né, foi um dos caras que comentou sobre isso.
Vocês acham que o Dino precisa trocar sua equipe? Esse quarto lugar não tá na conta do Faixa e Aceto?
Pra mim, o Ramon tem que trocar de preparador e de treinador.
Ali você já vê que tem uma quebra de união. Faixa preta já falou, não, minha parte eu fiz como treinador, a culpa é do Chris. Vamos apontar os erros. Erro de dieta teve, mas também teve erro de pose. O erro de pose fica na culpa do Chris só? Ou é o Faixa que também estava ajudando ele? Então os dois têm culpa. Não adianta um jogar a culpa pra cima do outro e ficar nesse troca de farpa pra ver quem que é o realmente culpado, porque os dois têm culpa.
A internet quer que o faixa preta, que o Ramon saia do faixa preta e vá treinar com o Jorlan. O Jorlan é essência, porque se fosse com o Jorlan, entendeu, não sei o que lá. Meu amigo, deixa eu te falar.
E o Chris Aceto não gostou nada disso. Bom, é isso que eu vou mostrar aqui pra vocês no vídeo de hoje. É um vídeo legendado. É um conteúdo que com certeza vocês vão curtir muito, né? Eu tenho certeza que vocês vão assistir isso aqui e gostar bastante. Chris Aceto respondendo, atacando Renato Cariani. Ele também comentou sobre o que aconteceu com o Ramon. O que aconteceu no Mr. Olympia de 2024. Todo mundo sabe o que aconteceu. Ramon não teve uma boa performance. Acabou suando demais no palco. Teve alguns probleminhas ali na sua finalização. E o Chris Aceto falou sobre tudo isso com ataques diretos ao Renato Cariani, então com certeza vocês vão gostar, fiquem com o vídeo e é isso aí, deixa o seu like e se inscreve, hein, cara, que deu trabalho pra fazer.
Just something to think about, guys. Now, Chris, you had a little run-in. Explain what's going on with the whole Brazilian press that you're in.
Oh, no, you can put up, I send you the picture, so someone sent it to me and you can put it up. It's, what's the guy's name?
Renato Cariani. I'll pull him up. I'll pull his Instagram up. He's got a very popular. Here he is. He's got 8.6 million followers on Instagram.
The Oprah Winfrey of Brazil, but he's probably. But he preps people, and so here he is. You know, the headline is like he's talking. I don't agree with Chris's methods, and of course, prior to this, he's the opposite, saying, Chris is the best. And I just want to remind him that, he's a small prep. He preps people. So I don't know if he thinks...
Why does he have so many followers, Chris? That's the question.
Because he's a good interviewer, probably. But
So he's popular in Brazil, in other words. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
He should remind his listeners in Brazil only that every show Rafael Brandão ever competed in, he was in great shape.
Right.
He's
what did he say about you? What did he say about you?
After Ramon gets fourth, he wants to take the soft, he wants to shit on me, but in a soft way. And I'm sure the soft way is simply because, if Ramon comes back and dominates shows, then he looks like an idiot. So, he's hedging his bets. It's what it's called. So he can remind his listeners during the show that, like I said, Rafael Brandão was in shape at every single show that I prepped him for. Eduardo Correa's Brazilian. He's kind of been in shape for every single show. I prepped Ricardo Correa, who lives in Brazil. Rude boy. He was peeled when I helped him. Ramon, of course. Marcelo Alfonsi just turned pro in the 212, and he beat Fabricio Moreira, which is one of the best 212 bodybuilders in Brazil. He just got his pro card in the Olympia. Right. He's Fabricio. William Martins is Brazilian. He got his pro card with me. He was placing second, third, fourth, and fifth in very competitive pro shows and beaten Olympians, and peeled out of his mind when I was coaching him. He's Brazilian. Good Vito is not Brazilian, but he lives there.
Right.
Alan Bonadaman, great professional bodybuilder, you know, needs more size, but he's always peeled, well coached. And Matt Grego, who just 1 year ago from the New York Pro, he was at the New York Pro and he lost to, what's the guy's name? Junior Jaworski, who's a really good Olympian. And Matt got, you know, 6th at that show, and I think Junior was 2nd. And 1 year later, Matt beats the Brazilian at the New York Pro, Eric Wildeberger, and comes to this show 20 pounds bigger than last year's Olympia. That's not an exaggeration, 20 pounds. And he beats, amazingly, incredible two classic competitors from Brazil, including Gabriel Zaccanelli, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good. And Fabio Jr., who's a really good classic guy. And I also helped, I used to coach Fernando Maradona, who's really well known in Brazil. So, but, you know, he wants to spout off to his 8 million, you know, people who listen to him. Well, you know, I've always questioned those methods. You know, maybe you don't even know, maybe the methods are so outside the box and you're thinking inside the box that sure you would question them. But I just gave my Brazilian resume to you, so you can, you know, shove that down, you know, wherever he wants to shove it. My rant. So all the Brazilians can pick it up tomorrow, and he can go on his little show with 8 million people and say how he's going to prep Ramon for the next show.
Well, you know, I don't think Ramon looked bad for the show. I don't know why.
Maybe you can call Raphael because, you know, he struggled the last 2 shows with his condition.
I thought that Ramon looked good. I think that Mike Summerfield was great. I think he was a shocker in that classic physique lineup. I don't think, you know, Bumstead was typical Bumstead. Urs, you know, raised his game up a little bit. I thought his tan was pretty bad. But I thought that the top 4 were stellar. I mean, I don't think you can really criticize them. I mean, what would, if as Ramon's coach, what would you like to have seen better on Ramon at this show?
I would have seen the prejudging start Dave 30 minutes before or B 3 hours later, because I was backstage with, you know, I went backstage. I saw Matt Grego there. I had like 4 people in the classic. What's the guy's name? Renato, whatever the guy with the 8 million followers. I had 4.
Yeah, Renato.
4 of the questionable methods. 4 times the questionable methods work to get guys wins to get into that show. I went over and, you know, I saw Ramon backstage, and Freddie, who promotes the Texas Pro. The quote is, "I've never seen condition like that."
Right.
And I looked and I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go sit down." And then he came out, of course, and he was like a YouTube video of the sweating bodybuilder. You know, he started to sweat like crazy. His tan was rubbing, you know, falling right off him.
Yeah.
You couldn't see what he looked like at all, really. And Breon, I mean, the classic guys are the best. You know, they support. I mean, I'm not saying the open guys wouldn't do it too, but Breon, like, telling them you got to wipe your sweat off while he's competing against them.
Right.
And so, you know, prejudging ends, and he's probably in 4th, maybe even 5th. I'd say 4th. And then I went to the hotel after the prejudge, and somebody pretty prominent in the sport came to the room to talk to Ramon. And he wanted to see what Ramon looked like. This was probably within 2.5 hours after the show, and he looked the exact same as when I had left him prior to going on the stage. He was peeled, and I know the person looking at him wanted to pick him apart and say, "See, you know what the problem is," and he just hit all the poses, and the guy didn't say one word in terms of being spot on.
Yeah.
Well, I think that,
I'd like
you know,
answer to that. That's a long-winded answer to the prejudging having started 30 minutes when I left, you know, prior to when I left him, or whatever it was, 2.5, 3 hours later when the guy came to the room. They're like, not read him the riot act, but probably tell him, let me see what you look like, and this is where you got to tighten up, or this is what you got to do, or this is what you should do, or think about this. You know, he came to give advice, which was, you know, good of him. But he couldn't really give any advice when it came to anything, with the exception of how to hit the back double better.
Well, I think my personal view is I think that his conditioning was phenomenal. I think that when I saw Mike Sommerfeld in second place, I almost couldn't believe that he made weight, because this guy looks like a bodybuilder. He's so big. I mean, he's got great proportion. His conditioning was awesome. I don't know how he made the weight class, to be honest with you, which I think is what's Ramon's problem is, if I'm not wrong, is every time he has to suck down to make that weight, he's losing some of that fullness that he probably would benefit from greatly on that stage. And sometimes, especially in Vegas, it's got to be very hard to get guys rehydrated after they make weight, because like my voice is, all the moisture just gets completely sucked out of you there. It was so hot and it was so dry there that you just dehydrated standing around almost, you know? Were you having problems keeping him full because of that, Chris?
I think it's always, you know, a little challenging to keep him full, because, you know, the true answer to that is at 108, you know, that's 12 pounds over.
Right.
You know, he's ready, and his condition at 108 probably beats 99 out of 100 people in the top 10 at the Olympia. So his condition is, you know, you would see it, Dave, and you would definitely say your condition is better at 109, because of the, you know, it might not be as intricate as having to make the weight at 103, but at 109 you're blasting full. You know, just, you know, pushing against the skin. So even if you're holding a little bit of water when you flex it, you don't really even care about that little bit of water. So, you know, moving down is always, I mean, it's been a challenge every single show. And the irony is, well, they did move the weight cap up, but every single show is a last, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 day struggle of how do you get there, because some years it's been impossible to get there. You know what I mean? It's you're a day out and you're still 2 pounds over, and there's nothing else to do other than don't breathe, you know? So the answer is it's a challenge.
I think what we're starting to see, and maybe John, you can comment on this, is that classic bodybuilding or classic physique, whatever you want to call it, whatever it's called, is more about proportion than it is about how much you weigh. And I think now that they're realizing that the judges can really influence who wins and looks good in this division by how they judge the physiques. So even if they took away the weight cap, I think the physiques wouldn't get out of hand as long as the judges rewarded the guys who had the classic look, like a Ramon, like a Urs, like a, you know, a Bumstead. Because the only way it gets out of hand is because the judges start rewarding bigger and harder, bigger and harder, bigger and harder, and then the weights get bigger, and you know, and then you lose the proportion.
I've always said that, you know, classic physique when you see it. So why have the cap or the height or any of it?